Hello students, welcome to your virtual classes. In this video, we'll be discussing the very first chapter of class 9th science, that is matter in our surrounding. So let me first tell you what are the topics which we'll be covering in this video. So in this chapter, we'll be discussing the definition of matter, characteristics of matter, the particle nature of matter, different states of matter, the conversion of one state of matter into another state of matter by the effect of temperature and pressure. Then we'll be discussing about evaporation, and finally we'll be talking about the recently discovered states of matter. So now let's first try to understand what matter is. So let me give you some examples of matter. Just look around yourself. You will be observing there are many things present around you. For example, the walls, table, chair, plants, animals. So these all things which you see around yourself, they all are the examples of matters only. So that means matter, it can be defined as anything which has mass and occupies space. So matter, we can consider anything as matter if it is having mass and if it is occupying space. So the examples which I gave, by that you must have understood that there is a lot of matter present in the nature, and the scientists have divided this matter or classified this matter in different ways. So there are two ways in which the matter has been classified. First, on the basis of their physical properties, and second, on the basis of their chemical properties, that is chemical constitution. Now, types of matter that we'll be discussing later on. Right now we'll be discussing the nature of matter. There was some group of scientists who believed that the matter is having a continuous nature. Continuous nature, that means the matter is continuous, it cannot be broken down. But on the other hand, there was some group of scientists who believe that the matter is having a particulate nature. Particulate nature of matter, that means it is made up of very small particles. So they believe that matter is not continuous, it is made up of very small particles. And in order to support this, they just divided up, they have taken a piece of matter and they keep on dividing that matter. Finally, they reach to a condition when the matter cannot be further divided out, and this piece of matter which cannot be further divided out, that was called as your particle. So the scientists, they finally proved that the matter is having a particulate nature. These particles, they can be either atoms, molecules or ions, which we'll be studying in our next class. Now, let's see what properties these particles are having which are forming any matter. So the properties which are associated with the particulate nature of matter, they are the particles of matters have space between them. The particles of matter, they are continuously moving, and the particles of matter, they attract each other. So these properties which I told you, let me explain these properties by the help of certain activities. Now, the first property which I told you, that the particles of matter, they have space between them, it can be proved by this activity. in this activity we'll be taking some water in a beaker. Water, it is a matter. Now in this matter we'll be mixing another matter, that is your sugar. So we are mixing sugar and in water. And you all would have observed that when we mix sugar in water, the level of water does not change. Now, the level of water does not change. That is just because the particles of water, they were having some empty space present between them, which has been occupied by the sugar particles. So this activity proves that the particles of matter, they have space between them. Now let us see another activity which proves another properties of particles. Now in this activity we'll be discussing, or the property which we'll be discussing is that the particles of matter, they are continuously moving. Now let us take some water in a beaker. Again, water is a matter, and in this matter we'll be putting some few drops of ink. Ink is another matter. So in one matter we have put a few drops of ink. Now no need to stir the water. Leave the water undisturbed for some time. After some time you will observe that the ink have spreaded out everywhere in water. Now this distribution, this spreading of ink in water, it proves that the particles of ink and water, they were continuously moving out, and that is why they have evenly mixed out everywhere. So again, this activity proves the second property of the particles. Now in these two activities which I have told you right now, you have seen that the particles of one matter, they are getting mixed with the particles of other matter. So this intermixing of two or more different types of particles, this is called as diffusion. So in this activity, the diffusion of ink and water particles are taking place. Similarly, in the previous activity, the diffusion of sugar and water particles have taken place. So I hope you would have understood the two properties, what they are and how are they present. Now let's talk about the third property of the particles, that is they attract each other. To prove this property, we'll be taking three different pieces of matter. Now let us take an iron nail, a rubber band and a piece of chalk. So these are the three different matters which we have taken. Now we'll try to break these three matters by applying certain force. So we'll be trying to break them by hammering, cutting or stretching. So when you try to break them, you will observe that the piece of chalk, it easily gets broken down. Rubber band, on that you have to apply some force, whereas in case of iron nail, you cannot break it out. So this can be understood by the property that the particles which are forming these matters, they are having a force of attraction. For example, the particles of iron nail, they were having a very large amount of force present between them, and that is why we were not able to break them. Whereas the particles of rubber band, they were having some moderate amount of force which we have broken down when we have applied force on it. Lastly, the piece of chalk which was broken down easily just because the particles were having very less amount of force present between them. So this activity proves that the particles of matter, they are attracted towards each other by a certain force. So I hope you all, in this video, you all would have understood what matter is, how is its nature, and what are the properties of the particles which are forming the matter. Thank you.